Rob, let's go to the Western Conference in the NBA where the Warriors are up 3-0 on your Dallas Mavericks, who you picked to win it in 7. I guess you're sticking to that pick.
Of course.
Win the next 4.
The Warriors were going to win 3 games anyway. I just didn't know which 3. You know what I'm saying?
But, they're looking, obviously, no team has ever rallied from a 3-0 playoff deficit. And it's looking like the Warriors are going to reach the finals for, what would this be, the 6th time, Rob? Say 1 in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, the 6th time that they will have reached the finals, going for their 4th championship. And Draymond Green, Rob, says that they never went away. Injuries just did them in. Rob G, read to us Draymond Green's quote in which he talked about this.
Right. He was talking to ESPN.com, and he suggested that he's not really surprised by, the quote-unquote resurgence of the Warriors because he doesn't think they ever fell off. Here's what he said. Quote, "None of these people really removed us from this space. Toronto beat us, but no one really came and said, all right, Golden State Warriors, time is up. We didn't leave this space because we just got too old to do it. We didn't leave the space because all of us went our separate ways. We left the space because Klay Thompson was out, and then he was out again, and Andre wasn't here, and then Steph got hurt. We didn't leave this space because we weren't capable of being in this space anymore."
Rob, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the injuries are a part of that takes a lot of teams off the mix, out of the mix when injuries come along. So I don't think that that's unique to them as if they were taken out of their space or whatever. I think the reason that they didn't have the pushback, and they had chances. I mean, Steph and them, they went to the play-in game. They could have made a run then. What happened? That was without.
They didn't have Klay.
Yeah, but they were in a position to be able to go. They still had him and Draymond, right? They had those two. I'm just saying they had those two guys. What'd you say?
Just keeping it real. That's not a championship team.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying.
They're 2 Hall of Famers,
right.
future
But
Hall
I'm
of
saying,
Famers.
when you're missing people, that's why the Lakers aren't in the mix on anything. That's why the Clippers aren't in the mix on anything. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And I'm not saying obviously those teams didn't win like Golden State won. So I hear what he's saying. I think he's kind of a little popping his chest out like if nobody got hurt, we would have won all those championships without saying it.
You think he's saying that, though?
Yeah, like because it was I read the headline, too, of it. It was something about their dynasty. Like, right? Wasn't it about their dynasty?
See, Rob G, tell us the headline.
What was it? I thought I saw
the
dynasty
headline
something.
on the ESPN.com article was NBA playoffs 2022, these Golden State Warriors aren't surrendering their dynastic perch just yet.
That's what I.
And you know, Rob, as well as anybody, that's a headline.
No, I know. I'm just
Draymond
saying.
Green didn't say that.
I'm just saying when I saw the dynasty thing, it put me off a little bit. That's all.
I think he's right on the money, Rob. And I don't think he's saying we would have won, the last 2 championships. But I think he's basically saying our window wasn't closed. And people did close the window on them. But if you look closely enough, and it's not like it took real insight to see it, but you could just see they were injured. I mean, we forget, we know about Klay's injuries the past 2 seasons. But Rob, 2 years ago, Steph was injured. Steph played 5 games. So Klay was out. Steph played 5 games. That was a year right after they lost to Toronto. And then last year, to your point, they did have Draymond and Steph and Wiggins. They all missed,
Wiggins is
10,
an all-star.
10, 15 games or so, But he's right in that injuries derailed him. And I've said this, Rob, and, we'll see if they win the championship. But I do think had they been healthy, they would have been a contender. Now, would they have won a ring? Who knows? But I do think they would have been a contender. And I think that is what Draymond is saying. And Rob, it's a little different because you and I know San Antonio was out of the finals for 7 straight years. Okay? But, or at least out of winning a championship for 7 years. But I've always compared Steph Curry to Tim Duncan. And obviously, they're very vastly different types of players. But in terms of their leadership, understated. Yeah, Steph's not as understated as Duncan, but still largely understated. Not the vocal rah-rah leader of their team necessarily, but their personality, their selflessness, that set the tone for the entire franchise. That Spurs dynasty was built around Tim Duncan. Even when David Robinson was still there as the Hall of Fame Admiral, and even when later on in the I call it a dynasty, later on in that stretch, Tony Parker was the leading scorer, and they ran the offense through Parker. It's the same with Steph. Like, he set the tone for this entire era of great Warriors basketball. And so that's what I think is similar to the Spurs. And now, like we said, they've been, 3 years, I think, without a ring, 3 or 4 years without a ring. And now, it looks like they'll at least be back in the finals. And look, it's the Eastern team, whoever it is, going to have a good shot. I think it'll be a really good finals. But I think the Warriors, Rob, will be favored. And it could, if it's Miami, they're a lot like that Toronto team, Rob, that beat the Warriors. You got, Jimmy Butler is Kawhi, Kyle Lowry's there, gritty bunch. You got a Bam Adebayo, a Pascal Siakam, like very similar, great defensively, well coached. So if it's Miami, it's going to be tough, but I think the Warriors will be favored, Rob.
No, I think they will be favored also, Chris, just out of respect and that they've won and all that. You know what I mean? I just think that it's just natural that you would put them there. When you're talking about a team, especially Miami had a failed attempt at winning a championship, and they haven't won with this group. So there's no way, I see Miami, no matter what, even if they win the next couple games and knocks Boston out in 5 games, and people go, wow, I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? I still don't think they would be the favorite.
Because this will be a sweep, or most likely. I wouldn't be shocked if Dallas wins Game 4. Right. Although, Rob, they're probably deflated. You know what I mean? Like, you heard the comments. I mean, we'll get into it later, but particularly Jason Kidd, it sounded like, you know what I mean, we're going to go back to the drawing board this summer, and we'll be back. You know?
But when that happens and you give up that Game 2, and then, that Game 2, that was the key. Yep, you had a chance to split there, and then you come home and you give up a big lead. We talk about all the time the NBA and big leads, with a lot of time to play, just aren't secure, Chris. They aren't until you.
No, and you know what? And even
not with a lot of time to play.
No doubt,
because you're making, and especially when you usually build leads like that, everything you put up is going in and nothing going in for the other team, and that's going to balance out. Chris, very seldom do we see it. It happens once in a blue moon.
That's one thing that is great. We often deride, the 3-point line, and neither one of us is against the 3-point line.
No, right.
We may be against.
I'm not in love with
use of it, an overemphasis on it. But I will say that one benefit to this overuse or overemphasis on the 3-ball, Rob, is that games are never over. I mean, we're seeing more. The negative is we're seeing more blowouts than ever, right? But the positive is that you're probably also seeing more big comebacks. I mean, if you were down 15 headed into the 4th, it was essentially over. And we saw comebacks. I remember when the Lakers came back on the Blazers in 2002, was it? That big Scottie Pippen was with the Blazers. They're up by 15 in Game 7 in 2000. I'm sorry. Going into the 4th. And the Lakers stormed back. But that was unusual. I mean, Rob, storming back from a 15-point deficit to start the 4th now is not nearly as big as it used to be. No,
it used to be a big deal.
Oh,
It's not.
Like, you can't rest
I agree
easy.
with you.
You don't feel like it's over if you're up 15. Let me say this about Wiggins, Rob. And my partner on First Things First, Nick Wright, he's caught a ton of flack on Twitter today and yesterday because when Wiggins was traded to the Warriors, I mean, he just bashed the trade, bashed Wiggins, said they never get back to a finals.
Did he say he's on the record?
Yeah, he went the whole 9 yards, the whole length. But I thought, Rob, that it was a great move to get Andrew Wiggins. And here's why. And I get he had been disappointing in Minnesota. But I think he's got number one, meaning like he could be the number one guy on the team, talent. I think he's got like number two game, like his ability defensively, offensively, athletically, all that. Can shoot the three now. But he's got, I compare it kind of, Rob, to Rasheed. Like, he's got that mentality where he doesn't necessarily want to be the man. He doesn't want to have to carry a team. He's content with fitting in with a group of players and, doing his part.
But you remember when he was coming out, though, Chris, he was the cat's meow. Everybody
he was. And look, he put up numbers in Minnesota.
Right.
He averaged 20-plus points 3 times. But, yeah, they didn't win. He and Karl Anthony Towns. But, Rob, I felt like Golden State was perfect because as the number 4 scorer, or at that time, number 3 scorer when he first got there behind Steph and Clay, and then you add Jordan Poole now, and he's the 4th scorer. He was the 4th best player behind Draymond. Now he's the 5th best player. Rob, or if you want to argue him and Jordan Poole is 4th. But that is the perfect scenario for him, and that's why he's shining. And Rob, my comparison is Andre Iguodala. You remember Iguodala in Philadelphia. He was supposed to
he was the main
carry the torch from Allen Iverson, be the guy. He was a max contract guy, and he was okay as a lead guy, but he couldn't carry a team deep in the playoffs. And when he went to Denver and then Golden State after that, he found his niche, which was a role player, and he became a leader and a role player on these championship teams, Rob. And I think that's what Wiggins reminded me of, and he had the potential to do, and he's doing it. And I'm not surprised now because, Rob, you have to pay attention to so many other guys that it just frees everything up for Wiggins. And I think for a guy with his personality, it takes the pressure off of him.
And he can just go out and be himself. He's not worried about if I don't make a shot, it's going to be the end of the world for the team. No, there's other guys who are taking those shots. I can just make my baskets. And I agree. I think when you take the pressure off people sometimes, and everybody has to figure out where they fit in, right? On where they figure, like if you're Rob G, where you fit in on the show. If you're Wiggins on a basketball team, I hear it. I smell a joke coming. No, there's no joke, Rob G. No, I appreciate you and where you fit in. I'm just saying. That's all.
Okay.
No joke.
All right.